Hello readers and writers of the internet, welcome back. So in this video it's going to be another Let's Talk, and it's going to be about the Shadow and Bone Netflix show. I did watch it in like 3 to 4 days upon its release. I kind of watched it as I did homework and wrote papers and stuff like that. So yeah, I do apologize that my Let's Talks right now, and there are only 2 as of right now, are about Shadow and Bone, but that's just kind of what's going on. So I do apologize, but you guys seem to like the last one, and I thought you guys would kind of like my thoughts and opinions after watching the show, so let's get into it. First off, I just want to say every single actor in the show did spectacular. They were all amazing, every single one of them. No complaints in that area. In terms of the plot, one of the questions was answered a day or 2 after I posted my first Let's Talk, and that question was, how are the crows, so Kaz, Inez, and Jesper, going to fit into this Shadow and Bone plot? Because their storyline takes place after Shadow and Bone by a few years, so I'm I don't know how this is gonna work, what's gonna happen. And it actually stated that they would be trying to get Elena for 1 million Kruger? I've heard it said a million times, I know how to say it, but I think I'm overthinking it. But yeah, for a lot of money, let's just say that. I'm oh, okay, that's cool, that's so unique, I love it, I love it, I love it so much. And that aspect of the show was actually my favorite aspect of the show, but that might have just been because Shadow and Bone is not my favorite. The characters were not my favorite, aside from the Darkling and Nikolai. But, I didn't really like it. And in the show, the Shadow and Bone plot is beat for beat. It's this happens, this happens, this happens. You could probably read it along as you watch. Just read the book and yes, we're there now. Whereas the Six of Crows plot is now completely different, kind of the same. It's still kind of a heist mission type-esque, but it's still a different mission for different goals, for different reasons. I'm okay, that's kind of cool. I actually really enjoyed their plot a lot. One thing that I kind of really liked that I wasn't expecting was the editing, and I know that may sound a bit boring to a few of you guys, but I'm gonna describe it the best way I can not to be boring, because but in Shadow and Bone filming, Elena and the Darkling is very much not stagnant, but it's very still. There weren't a lot of crazy shots, it just kind of focused on them, which was good. But in Six of Crows, it was a bit more sarcastic editing is the best way I can describe it, which fit in with the team so well. You would see someone fall, and it would do a zoom and then a quick cut to them, and they would just be and then it would end. You're what did I just watch? But it was still kind of funny. And then I also like the way in which they did it. In terms of the person falling, you'd see them falling, well, why did that need to be included? What was going on? And then in the next episode, it's that's what happened, that's why it needed to happen, you're welcome. And I'm oh, that's so cool. It's reading the book where an element will happen, you're how does this tie in, how does this relate, what's going on, I'm so confused. And then Kaz is this is how, and he's okay, gotcha, sorry for doubting you. So that's kind of how it happened. Their editing was a bit more, sarcastic, I guess, a bit more funny. I really enjoyed that side of it, though. And may I just say, I knew Freddie Carter was going to be good as Kaz, but the actor, and I blanked on his name, I'll put it down there for you guys, who plays Jesper, this man did such a great job. He made the character leap off the pages. I was watching him, I'm this is Jesper. I love it. He was so funny. I loved his sarcasm, I loved his humor, I loved his wit. his action scenes involving the guns were amazing. And by the way, shout out to Milo the goat. If you know, you know. I love Milo the goat. And so did Jesper. But yeah, I just love that aspect of it so much. I'm like, this is a pleasant surprise. Like, wow. Wow, wow. Now, for this next little bit, it revolves around Nina and Matthias. Now this could have been just because like I misheard something. I don't think this part was ever confirmed. I think I just assumed because I'm a little dum-dum. But it was to my understanding that Nina and Matthias were not going to be in the show, much like Rylan was not going to be in the show. I'm like, okay, fine. I've made my peace. They weren't my favorite couple. Anyway, it's okay. Little did I know, they were in the show. Not Rylan, but just Nina and Matthias. They were in the show. And it takes their backstory from Six of Crows and shows it to us here. I'm like, that's super cool that we're seeing something that like we've read about, but not in extensive detail. And I actually really like their chemistry here. The actors who portrayed them, they did a really good job. Like when she would call him like a big oaf and stuff like that, like it was funny and I really enjoyed it. And if you guys have watched any other videos involving Six of Crows, you know Nina and Matthias are not my favorite couple. It's Kaz, Inej, Jesper, Rylan, Nina, Matthias. And that's not a bad thing. It's not saying that I hate them. They were just my least favorite of the couples. But in here, I really enjoyed them. I'm like, okay, I could go for this. Like, I ship it. So that was really cool to see their backstory come to life. And like it was just witty, it was funny. I really enjoyed it. I felt for the characters. I liked their relationship. That aspect of it was done really, really, really well. Now, do I miss Rylan? Yes, of course I miss Rylan. Do I wish that he was in the show? Yes, of course. But, however, there were a few times where the main story is focused on Elena and the Darklings, a Shadow and Bone story. The first season goes almost beat for beat the first book, Shadow and Bone, obviously. So it was focused on the Crows, but not as much as it was on Elena and the Darkling, because it's her story, it's not theirs. I completely understand that, I get that. I just wish that there would have been a bit more of the Crows, because there was quite like a few things like crammed in there, and they weren't crammed in there like sloppily. It was done well, but I was like, I wish that we would have explored that like a bit more. Like Pekka Rollins is kind of introduced, you know, Kaz shows to hate him, but we only get like a scene or two about it. I'm just like, I wish they would have really, really, really expounded upon that. Like that was so good. Ugh. You know, and this is kind of sort of not a maybe confirmed, but someone had asked Lee Bardugo, hey, if there's a season 2, will Nikolai be in it? And she's like, yeah, Nikolai will be in season 2 if there is one. And the fact that Shadow and Bone right now is doing really well on Netflix, it's #1 ranked in like the US top 10, is doing really well, has good ratings, people love it. You know, stuff like that. It makes me think there is going to be a season 2. I don't want to say anything for sure because like the season 1 just came out, you know. But I do think that there is going to be a season 2. Really excited for it. I'm really excited to see Nikolai portrayed on the screen. Like they've done so well with the casting choices here. It makes me to believe that they'll cast the perfect one for Nikolai as well. And hopefully then we can focus a bit more on Kaz and like, you know, that situation and Edge and like all that kind of stuff. And then maybe she's only confirmed Nikolai, not Rylan, but I would really like to see Rylan introduced. I really want to see Rylan. I really want to see Jesper and Rylan together. Yeah, there were a few plot points, like I've said, that like weren't expounded upon. But if there is a season 2, I don't know how the Crows are gonna come into relation with the Shadow and Bone people again, because they like went their separate ways at the end of the show. So I like they can't do another heist or another stealing plot because I feel like that's already been done. I mean, they could. It would be interesting enough, but maybe Elena could be like I know a few people, and like calls them and gets them help, or maybe she goes to their territory, Catterdam, and is like, hey, help me, you know? But I don't know how that's gonna play out, because the first season, like I've said, follows Shadow and Bone beat for beat, so that leads me to believe that the second season is gonna follow Steez and Storm beat for beat as well. So I don't know how everything's gonna tie in or anything like that. I don't know. Another thing that like really pleasantly surprised me was the fact that they did not hold back on the blood, and it wasn't like horror movie, like gory, like, oh no, I need to turn away, like that's a lot, like that's brutal. It wasn't like that. It was more so when someone got shot with a bullet, you would see the blood. It wasn't just like a puff of smoke and they went down. Like that just made it all the more real. I'm like, wow, this is war. The Volcra can really do some damage. Like, I believe like the Volcra were like scary, like they could like rip a person to shreds, and they did and showed it. I'm like, this is great. This is really great. So I'm glad they didn't shy away from that, because Lee Rodrigo's books, especially The Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows, especially Six of Crows, is more of a dark YA fantasy. It doesn't shy away from violence or death or anything like that. It's not explicit in doing so. It just isn't afraid to show it. Like, I hope that the show, you know, can do that too, because that's what, like, is kind of appealing about some of the books. It's like, hey, they're in the middle of a war. Like, things are not sunshine and daisies. Like, people are being shot, people are being killed, people are being hunted. You know, like, it's brutal, and some of the ways people can die is very brutal, and I'm glad they didn't shy away from that. It was done really well, and I really enjoyed that, so thank you. Oh, also, this show did the impossible. It made me like Mal. Take it in. Take it in. No, like, I was, like, watching it, I'm like, do I like Mal now? Like, am I rooting for Mal? Am I not annoyed by Mal? The answer was yes. I like Mal now. I hated him in the books. Like, if you guys have seen my reviews of Shadow and Bone, which I will link up there for you guys, I hated Mal. I hated him and Elena's relationship. I hated everything about it. In the show, I was rooting for him. I'm like, go, get to her, dude. Run, get to her. You know, like it was just so well done, and like the actor who did it, he did an amazing job. And I do kind of feel bad for the actor who was playing Mal, because you're being compared to, you know, Kaz and Inej and Jesper and Elena and the Darkling, and like, you know, all these characters from the basis. People like reading them. People like were excited to see them. So I'm not saying the actors had an easy job. I'm not saying that at all. But, you know, there wasn't like this, oh, people hate my character in the books, I need them to like me here. For the other actors, for Mal, I kind of felt bad for the actor, and I haven't seen like any interviews, so I don't know what he was thinking. This is just like off the top of my head, but I kind of felt bad for him, because not a lot of people like Mal, and he's tasked with like making everyone like Mal, and he does it for me personally. I'm like, wow, this is really good. Also, the love triangle in this, I didn't mind it so much. It was handled, and I guess because the TV show was a bit shorter, I guess, than the book, so like, you know, details in the book were taken out of the show, so it wasn't like this huge back and forth thing. But like, I didn't mind it here. Like, it showed this is why she thinks Mal doesn't like her. That's why she goes to the Darkling as kind of like a rebound, like, hey, dude, I need this. Simply. But then, you know, when Mal gets introduced back into the picture, like, things kind of add up, and she's like, oh no, the Darkling's a bad dude, I'll go with Mal. So that made a bit more sense, which is also kind of how it was handled in the books, but again, because it is a book, it's a bit more drawn out. I just thought it was portrayed a bit better in the show. So if you think about it, really, the show has done two impossible things. They've gotten me to like Mal, and they've gotten me to come to a liking of a love triangle. Simply. I mean, honestly. I mean, it's done the impossible, so Oh, and this goes without saying, we can kind of see this from the trailer, but the special effects in this are really, really, really good. I really enjoyed the special effects. It made everything come to life. The world, I thought, was really well done. And I'm so glad that a lot of like the outdoor shots or even like palace shots, like you could tell they were in an actual location. They weren't just in like a green screen. I was like, thank you, because that just makes it so much more real when you can like see miles and miles and miles and miles of terrain, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. So that was really well done, and I'm glad they didn't take the easy way out and just put them in front of a green screen or a blue screen. I'm glad they didn't do that. So thank you. I think that is it. I think I've covered everything that I want to talk about. If there was one thing you were curious about, I didn't really talk about it, or maybe I glanced over it, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. I will 100% respond to you guys. I read every single comment that you give me. I love them. Thank you so much. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. And it'd mean the world to me if you follow me on all my other social media, since Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those will be listed down in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!